Parents, what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see your child's most challenging behaviors. Donald Winnicott discovered something revolutionary. When your child is acting out, having meltdowns, or displaying difficult behavior, they're not trying to make your life harder. They're actually communicating something desperately important about their inner world, and they're doing it in the only way they know how. If you can learn to decode what these behaviors really mean, you'll transform not just how you respond to them, but your entire relationship with your child. Let me start with something that might shock you. Winnicott found that difficult behavior in children is often a sign of emotional health, not a problem to be fixed. I know this sounds backwards, but stay with me. When your child feels safe enough with you to show you their worst moments, their biggest emotions, and their most challenging behaviors, it means they trust you with their authentic self. They believe, on some deep level, that you can handle who they really are. Think about it this way. Your child doesn't have meltdowns at school the way they do at home. They don't throw tantrums with strangers the way they do with you. This isn't because they're trying to embarrass you or because they don't respect you. It's because they feel safe enough with you to let their guard down and show you how they're really feeling inside. Winnicott called this regression in the service of the ego. What he meant is that sometimes children need to go backwards emotionally in order to move forward. They need to express feelings they couldn't express before, work through experiences they couldn't process, and get needs met that weren't met earlier. Their difficult behavior is actually their psyche's attempt to heal and grow. Let me give you some examples of what different behaviors might really be communicating. When your 4-year-old has a massive meltdown because you gave them the blue cup instead of the red one, they're not really upset about the cup. They're overwhelmed by something much bigger, and the cup is just the trigger that allows all those big feelings to come out. Maybe they're processing a change at school, or feeling insecure about something, or just carrying too much emotional weight for their little system to handle. When your 6-year-old suddenly starts acting like a baby, wanting to be carried, talking in baby talk, or needing help with things they can usually do themselves, they're not trying to be manipulative. They're telling you that they need more nurturing, more connection, or more support. Something in their world feels too big or too scary, and they're asking you to help them feel small and safe again. When your 8-year-old becomes defiant, argues with everything you say, or seems to be testing every boundary you set, they're not just being difficult. They're actually checking to see if you're strong enough to handle their big feelings, and if your love is consistent, even when they're not being lovable. They're asking, are you still going to love me when I'm not being good? Here's something crucial that Winnicott understood. Children don't have the language or the cognitive capacity to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I need your help to regulate my emotions. Instead, they show you through their behavior. A tantrum is actually a request for co-regulation. Acting out is often a bid for connection. Regression is frequently a sign that they need more support or nurturing. But here's where most parents get it wrong. Instead of trying to understand what the behavior is communicating, we focus on stopping the behavior itself. We use timeouts, consequences, rewards, or punishment to make the difficult behavior go away. While these approaches might work in the short term, they often miss the underlying message your child is trying to send. Winnicott would say that when you only focus on changing the behavior without understanding what it's communicating, you're essentially telling your child to stop expressing their authentic feelings. You're teaching them that their emotional world doesn't matter as much as your comfort or convenience. This can lead to the development of what he called a false self, where your child learns to hide their real feelings and present only the version of themselves that's acceptable to you. So how do you decode what your child's difficult behavior is really saying? First, you need to look beyond the behavior itself and try to understand the feeling underneath. Instead of asking, how do I make this behavior stop? Ask, what is my child trying to tell me through this behavior? When your child is having a meltdown, they're usually communicating one of several things. They might be saying, I'm overwhelmed and I need help managing these big feelings. They might be saying, I'm feeling disconnected from you and I need more attention or connection. They might be saying, something in my world feels unsafe or uncertain and I need reassurance. Or they might be saying, I have needs that aren't being met and I don't know how to ask for help. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice. Your 3-year-old is having a tantrum because you said it's time to leave the playground. Instead of immediately focusing on getting them to stop crying, you might first acknowledge the feeling. You're really upset about leaving. You were having so much fun here. Then you might try to understand what they're really communicating. It's hard when fun things have to end, isn't it? You wish you could stay longer. This doesn't mean you change your boundary about leaving. It means you're helping your child feel understood while they process their disappointment. You're showing them that their feelings matter, even when they can't get what they want. This kind of response helps them develop emotional intelligence and teaches them that their inner world is important and valid. Here's another example. Your 5-year-old has been acting out all week, being defiant, not listening, and generally being difficult. Instead of just implementing more consequences, you might step back and ask what they might be trying to communicate. Maybe they're feeling disconnected from you because you've been busy with work. Maybe they're anxious about something at school. Maybe they're processing a recent change in the family. So instead of just focusing on the behavior, you might try reconnecting with them. You might spend some one-on-one time together, or ask them about their feelings, or just be more present and attentive. Often, when children feel more connected and understood, the difficult behavior naturally decreases because they don't need to use it to communicate anymore. Winnicott also discovered that different types of difficult behavior often emerge at different developmental stages, and each stage has its own communication pattern. Toddlers often use tantrums to communicate overwhelm or frustration because they don't have the language to express complex emotions. Preschoolers might use regression or acting out to communicate insecurity or a need for more attention. School age. Children might use defiance or testing boundaries to communicate their growing need for autonomy while still needing your support. Understanding these developmental patterns can help you respond more appropriately to your child's behavior. A 2-year-old's tantrum needs a different response than a 7-year-old's defiance, not because one is worse than the other, but because they're communicating different things based on their developmental stage. Here's something that might surprise you. Winnicott found that children who never display difficult behavior can actually be more concerning than children who do. A child who is always compliant, never tests boundaries, and never has emotional outbursts might be suppressing their authentic feelings because they don't feel safe expressing them. They might be developing a false self that's focused on being good rather than being real. This doesn't mean you should encourage difficult behavior, but it does mean you should be glad when your child feels safe enough to show you their authentic emotions, even when those emotions are challenging. It means they trust you with their real self, and that's actually a sign of a healthy attachment relationship. So what does it look like to respond to difficult behavior in a way that honors what your child is trying to communicate? First, try to stay calm and regulated yourself. Your child is looking to you for co-regulation, and if you're dysregulated, you can't help them regulate. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that their behavior is communication, not manipulation. Second, try to validate the feeling behind the behavior before you address the behavior itself. You might say something like, I can see you're really upset, or this is really hard for you, or you have some big feelings right now. This helps your child feel seen and understood, which often helps them calm down more quickly. Third, try to guess what they might be trying to communicate. You might say, I wonder if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, Or, "It seems like you might need some extra connection with me." Or, "I'm guessing you're feeling frustrated because this is hard." Even if you're wrong, the fact that you're trying to understand their inner world is powerfully connecting. Fourth, offer support while maintaining boundaries. You can acknowledge their feelings while still holding your limits. You might say, "I can see you're angry about bedtime, and bedtime is still happening. Let's figure out how to make this easier for you." Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all difficult behavior. The goal is to help your child learn to express their feelings and needs in healthier ways while feeling understood and supported. When children feel truly seen and understood, they often don't need to use difficult behavior to communicate because they have other ways to get their needs met. Here's what's really beautiful about this approach. When you respond to your child's difficult behavior with curiosity and understanding, rather than punishment or control, you're teaching them that their inner world matters. You're showing them that their feelings are valid and that they can trust you with their authentic self. You're helping them develop emotional intelligence and the ability to communicate their needs in healthy ways. Over time, children who feel understood and supported in this way often develop better emotional regulation, stronger self-esteem, and healthier relationships. They learn that it's safe to have big feelings and that there are people who will help them work through those feelings. They develop what Winnicott called a true self that's authentic, resilient, and capable of genuine connection. As we wrap up, I want you to think about this. The next time your child displays difficult behavior, instead of immediately trying to make it stop, pause and ask yourself what they might be trying to tell you. What feeling might be underneath the behavior? What need might they be expressing? What support might they be asking for? Your child's difficult behavior isn't a problem to be solved. It's a communication to be understood. When you can decode what they're really saying, you'll not only help them feel more understood and supported, but you'll also strengthen your relationship with them in ways that will last a lifetime. Don't wait to understand. Your child is trying to tell you something important right now,